What's up, everyone? This is the third episode of Trench Talk. I'm here with my usual co-hosts, NRV and LTR. And then this week, we have our very first guest, pwnlord69. Super excited to have him on. Going to talk about some great topics today regarding trading, and looking forward to having many more to come. NRV, LTR, how are y'all doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Market's been kind of dead lately. Just been sitting on my hands, waiting for obvious plays. Most of my bags I've been holding have just been going down. I've been stacking a lot of runes lately, just making a big bet on those. But a lot of my base bags that I've talked about have just been slowly bleeding out. There's been some decent plays that have come up. Nothing like super noteworthy on base to like really speak of, I would say. But it's been really obvious to me that the volume and just like the amount of transactions and attention is really on Solana right now. So I think there's probably a lot more that you guys can share in that regard.
Yeah, I've been good on the opposite end of the spectrum. Just been trading on Solana a lot. Like NRV said, there's been tons of volume there, tons of mooners, tons of pump and dumps. Just, it's definitely where retail is, at least right now. And I think it's going to continue being that way for the foreseeable future. Other than that, I'm kind of looking at Blast for a resurgence closer to TGE. I like runes as well. I've been looking there. Cold-Blooded Schiller took over a project. I'm looking into that. But otherwise, just been in the trenches on Solana.
Yeah, I feel that. I've literally just been balls deep in Solana, burning money, throwing money left and right, acting like an actual crackhead. It's been interesting. Pwn Lord, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Glad to have you for sure. Would you be interested in maybe giving a little backstory? Probably most people know you already, but any small little backstory you'd like to give about yourself?
Yeah, I'll try and do like the condensed version. But I got into crypto like 2016. Like most people, like 2017 was like my first, bull run. I didn't know, what I was doing. I think a lot of us didn't know what we were doing. So I would just be in like buying Tron on Binance, or if I saw like a giant green candle somewhere, I would just, buy that, and it kept going up. And let's see, it stuck around. 18 I was like kind of around, and then 19, 20, like DeFi came around, and I was just like, oh, this is a scam, because like we got so jaded in the 2018 bear. There was like nothing to do. Like there was just lose your money on BitMEX, or like that was it. There were no like altcoins like to do, play with or whatever. So got super jaded. But yeah, in like 2020, I got more into DeFi stuff. I was like writing kind of like, I don't know, I guess exotic like farm strategies on a lot of L1s, building farms, because that was kind of the name of the game, was just high yield. So I did that, and then worked on the VC side a little bit with Rarestone and Charles and those guys. And then nowadays, I basically just live on chain. That's where the fun is. It's like I grew up playing MMOs, and I don't know, this is like the best MMO that you've like come across. It's like very PvP. There's like, economies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's basically what I do now, is I just trade meme coins and snipe stuff and bot stuff, and I love it.
I see you have pvp.eth in your bio on Twitter. Does that come from like the MMO era, and like the way
Yeah.
it rings true in this space as well?
Yeah, well, I was like relatively early to like ENS. Like I minted some pretty cool ones. It's unfortunate that I have to like pay insane rent on them every year to the ENS people. It's like almost criminal. But yeah, I minted that one just because I was doing like, I guess what you would call like early MEV on Arbitrum. There was like a game called Cuddle, like Mooncats. The Muse guys made it. Adam did, and anyway, I was like having to like fight, other operators for essentially like liquidations on this little game, and so you're constantly like changing like your strategy because like I might beat this guy for a day and then he comes back and beats me and you went back and forth. So it's just like very PvP. Yeah. So when I had the opportunity to mint that ENS, I was like, wow, I can't believe this is available.
No, that's sick. I think there's a lot of people that I've met in this space, especially in Hideout, which is like where I've met like a lot of my closest friends. There's so many gamers in this space, whether it's like FPS pros or MMO people. I used to play a ton of WoW. I used to like do world first raids and shit like that. So there's definitely some similarities there, and I think there's probably more people in this space that have like gaming backgrounds than other people are aware of. But yeah, I think it's also like why a lot of us get addicted to this and like competing and PvPing against each other.
No, like I grew up playing Call of Duty and FIFA, and I was like 16 grinding Call of Duty tournaments and FIFA. Man, I forget what it was. It was like it was FIFA Ultimate Team. They introduced like this weekend tournament league, and man, I don't know what it was, but it's kind of how I explained to my girlfriend is like I just switched my obsessive desire of playing video games and the grind in it, and I just switched that to crypto. That's literally all that happened. And then I just made money and don't need to have a job. So things worked out, I guess. But I definitely understand the whole gaming thing. I don't know. Something about just grinding away at something is just works insanely well with me.
Well, yeah,
So,
the
Paul,
reward
how long
system
have you
is
been full time with trading?
shit. I've been like full time since I guess like 2020. You know that because that was when there was like stuff to actually do. You know, like when DeFi came out, farming was like a whole new thing, and so I was like, oh, there's like stuff I can do on Ethereum now. So that was when I kind of started getting like full time with it, and then I mean, once you I don't know, hit like a certain level of financial security, you're like, all right, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm good at. So I mean, I don't know what I would do, if I didn't do this.
Yeah, for sure. Did you ever get involved like heavily into NFTs, or like was it mostly coins trading the whole time?
So I missed all the good shit in 2021. Like when everyone was doing NFTs, I was like on Binance Smart Chain, like you know, PvPing like over there. So I didn't get into NFTs until really, I guess like when I like a lot of the free mint meta started with like Anonymice and some other stuff. And so I started botting like those mints, and then that kind of was like my gateway into NFTs. Like I didn't really actually start buying anything that I liked really though until Ordinals like came around. Like I never had Azukis or Punks or Bored Apes. Like
No, I got you. I mean, I
sorry, my
started
internet
early
was cutting
21.
out.
No, you're good. I started early 21, so I mean, that's all I started. Anonymous was actually like my first little small community I joined, which is actually funny. But yeah, while you were PvPing on BNB chain, I was stressing out on IC Mint. Quite a fun time. I didn't even know what BNB, the whole BNB era was when like Pepe meme coin, like when Pepe dropped. A couple of, like bigger people were like, "Oh yeah, like this guy like traded big on BNB." I think the first guy I heard was maybe like Woo Pig or something, and I was like, "What even is this?" I had zero knowledge on it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean BSC was basically like what we have right now in Solana to like a degree, but just there was so much liquidity and like so much volume and stuff would just like juice super hard. And then we didn't have any tooling. Like we didn't have like the TG bots. We didn't have analysis breakdowns on holders and stuff. So unless you could like quickly eyeball like a verified contract, a lot of the times you didn't know what you're stepping into, and like people were just rug, left and right.
Were you just
But
like
it was
struggling to
it was
get
a wild
buys in
time.
manually swapping?
No,
Like
it was
high, like set
actually
high slippage? Like what did that look like? Because I know that's a pain, or was a pain without proper tooling now.
yeah. So you would just set high slippage. Like there wasn't really back then. There wasn't really like sandwich MEV. Like I'm sure it existed. Like if you had your slippage like super high, but for the most part, like at least from what I was doing, like you weren't really. It was more like farming. Like there was these like just crazy, like really big farms that people would get into, and then just pool twos and goose forks and stuff like that. Like meme coins. I think like the first real meme coin on BSC that I remember was like the cum rockets, and that one, it kind of like took a minute to get going.
Was there like any like specific huge win that you had that kind of caused you to feel like, all right, I'm going to do this full time now? Like anything that sticks out in memory
Yeah.
from that time?
Well, I mean, things got pretty silly. Like there was like probably like three like super high level competitors for sniping because like again none of the software like was public. Maybe you could hire dev, sure, but most people were just running spammers, and then it was still very like whatever. But anyway, yeah, I think the biggest win was kind of like towards the tail end of the bull as far as BSC goes. But I remember my buddy and I had sniped something and made like 1.5 mil in, I don't know, fucking 10 minutes, and I was just like, all right, like, is this just how it is now? Obviously it wasn't, but
Okay.
you have a couple of plays like that and like you're hooked.
No, that's understandable. If y'all want to check chat, I'm sniping a coin. But yeah, that's interesting to hear. I don't know, it's just kind of cool hearing all the old stuff, like especially compared to now, especially how I had actually like zero knowledge on it. But anyways, I think we're going to start talking about topics now. Any preference on where we start? We've already talked about it. NRV. Should we talk about scaling in size first?
I think it'd be interesting to talk about, like, obviously, like, we want to learn about how Bone is trading now and, like, just kind of pick his brain a bit. I think there's a lot that people can learn from him, ourselves included. I think the most natural place to start is probably just around buying, approaches to buying, and, like, maybe even include, like, different tools, bots that he prefers to use and why. Then we can go into, like, once you have a trade, how do you manage it? How do you sell it? Things like that.
That sounds good. We'll just all go around and kind of talk about how we enter trades. I'll just go ahead and go first. My strategy changes over time. Most of the time, as I've talked about before, I find a coin that cooks. I find wallets that did really good off of that. And then I'm telling maybe like maybe 100, 200 wallets that I'm watching and monitoring on Telegram all day. And I will admit, I kind of just leech off of other people. When I'm saying other people, I'm leeching off their wallets buying, right? I do have a couple tools, especially like from Rue, that will track freshies and stuff. And I do know they're working on tools for Solana, which I'm super excited about. Shout out them. But I really am just kind of looking at what people are buying, and then I'm immediately, all right. Most of the time, I'm usually just insta buying. By the time you see someone buy something, and then you were to go look at, all right, is the liquidity locked, or is their Twitter good, or how's the holding ratio, yada, yada, yada. It'll be 3, 4, 5x sometimes. So literally I say it all the time, I buy stuff and close my eyes and then start looking into it and just pray I don't lose money half the time. I'm very, very degenerate. A lot of it is also just kind of based off of things I've personally experienced. I can sometimes notice like, oh, this person made something, or I know this person or this group of people are entering in something. It's probably a better shot than, aping something random. But that's kind of how I enter trades at the moment. Interview.
I mean, like, honestly, I'd love to hear from Pone on, like, how he approaches this.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love your approach. I mean, I think that's awesome. I'll just, like, say something really quick on what Anon said, then go to Pone. I think a lot of people that I see degen into stuff that do make a lot of money will go with a similar approach where, like, hey, if it looks good, or if you get a wallet ping on something, buy some, but maybe not the full amount that you want to put in, or don't really size in, but at least get something in there, and then continue to research. And as you establish more conviction in it and like it more, then you can start to size in more. But yeah, getting in early is key in this space for sure.
so I'll touch on like two, I guess, like approaches that I have. I'm just gonna speak specifically on Solana right now, but I mean, you can apply this across the board. It's just like Solana's just where, the action is right now. So I have like there's some big coins, right, that I might miss. Let's say something like Michi or Bowden or some like even not USA is not a good example, but like some of these coins that have already established themselves, they're already, up a lot. Maybe, they're sitting at I don't know, 50 mil, 60 mil market cap or something like that. But it's something that like hasn't died overnight. On those, like I don't care if I'm late, if I think that it checks a lot of boxes, I'll just fire big on those. And then I'm not really super concerned about my entry, like whatever. Half the time I'm underwater, for a little bit, like after I buy them. But those like bigger ones, like where I have time to kind of like look at some stuff, and then kind of like make my own whatever thesis around it. Like I'll just, I'll buy an AFK in those. But like I love, doing what we do, and I like the process, of like finding coins, like okay, trying to like be early to stuff or whatever. Sniping is like, an ideal scenario just because there's like that sense of like, I don't know, satisfaction when, hey, I'm literally before anyone. That's like more fun for me. But like you were saying, right now on Solana, like specifically, we're all playing the same coins, like we're playing the same meta. Yeah, sure, there's like tons of coins that are popping off, but for like a day-to-day, Solana meme coins, like a lot of it's like recognizing, hey, does this have staying power or not? Is this meta gonna last more than a week? And I think some of that comes down to just kind of like instinct, and like doing this for a while, like you kind of just know like when a coin's trading like a certain way. Not always, some coins look like they're fucking cooked, and then next thing you know, someone decides to bid it up. But to get into those, like we're all using a lot of the same tooling, and whether it's wallet trackers, looking for like confluence between, okay, cool, like this group of people are buying, but so is this group, or these people are on their Twitter, like whatever. And then sizing up maybe after you do your check down, and say, okay, cool, like I feel a little bit better about this. Like I mean, you guys will see me like even after something's like juiced a lot and people are, I'll see people clipping out. Like if I like it, I like, spot it's in, like I'll top blast. And in this environment, like usually you can get away with it.
Yeah, what I like to say is every time you do that, I think you just have bigger balls, especially than me and LTR. Like, I've obviously been talking with you probably for the past maybe 2-3 weeks, and kind of been just understanding like your trade style, like especially compared to like my super quick early coin degenerate side has been really interesting, and it's definitely something that I've wanted to get better at, and I'm definitely like kind of almost take anything you say as gold at this point, because I'm kind of just like it's hard. I don't know. It's very hard for me. Like I'll see you top blast something or put crazy size into something, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't have like that crazy risk tolerance to lose like crazy amounts. Like I remember you were saying you were down mid 5 figs on a certain coin. I don't think I could possibly handle that at all.
Oh man, well, it gets a lot worse. Like the higher you go, the higher you rank up in this game, like your downswings just get like worse and worse. Whether it's 6 figures, 7 figures, like, but it's the same. Like, it's just the game we play, And like I think recognizing too that like on red days, like hey, people are gonna sell coins, and it's like, do you want to play that game where I'm selling my shit when it's already down, and then to save, maybe a couple percentages or whatever. But like, at least in the last 6 months, like that behavior is generally punished, like stuff can go down fucking 40% in 2 days. And then, it has one day where it's up 150%. It's like back above like where you sold. So, but I think a lot of it too is relative to like your trading size, like I'm not like, yeah, like I'm trading with like, a decent amount of money, but I know like if if that wallet got zeroed out, like I can still play the game, you know. Like it's not going to zero me out. So a lot of it's like bankroll management, and you know, I mean, we're gambling, but we have an edge, right? Or at least we think we do. We have an edge over the other people we're playing against. So like you just got that's how I approach it, you know, is just gambling. And like when I'm hot, I press, you know, and when the market's hot, I press. When we're getting coins that are, you know, going from 1 mil market cap to, you know, 100 or whatever, like in a week, um, like those are conditions that we've been waiting for, you know, whether wherever we are, you know, wherever we are in the market cycle right now, like those are conditions that like did not exist for the last, you know, year and a half, 2 years. So I just, when we do have these like periods where, you know, everyone's playing the game, not everyone's like immediately selling a 2x, like people are like willing to sleep in their coins, um, then my risk tolerance, you know, goes up a good bit because I'm like, okay, cool, like I can press here and maybe like not always get punished for it.
No, I understand that. Definitely learning to turn on the gas is a very, very important aspect to learn. NRV LTR, do y'all want to share how y'all enter trades?
Yeah, I can go. I would say I'm pretty similar to you, Anon. Maybe a little bit more on the network side. I just like aping into stuff that I have asymmetric info on, whether that is wallets, whether that is a friend, whether that is, you know, some person in a group chat saying, hey, this, and this is in this because of this. So I really just look for asymmetric info, and that's just a fancy way of saying stuff that you know more about than just face value. And then beyond that, I like looking at wallets, not only tracked wallets, but also holder wallets. Like, okay, what are the top holders? Are they freshies? You know, what else do they own? What is their track record? What is their history? I think that's a huge thing. I think a lot of people will just look at face value of the percentage of holders and what top holders have and what the distribution is like, but not actually look into who the top holders are. Because frankly, I'm okay with distribution being horrible if the top wallets are like, let's say, 7-figure wallets, you know, that have millions of dollars worth of meme coins. Like, I'm okay with that. And I think that's a big thing is you just got to look really into the story that the wallets are telling you, that the holders are telling you. So I mostly just ape based off wallets, I would say, and whether just using my network, using my friends like pwnlord, like you, like NRV, I think that's a huge thing.
I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I've made, I've talked about this with like a lot of my closer trading friends, and I definitely continue to do this. I do it a bit less these days, but I still find myself doing it. I tend to I look for trades that seem obvious to me, and I definitely am able to build a lot of conviction in them. But one of the biggest mistakes that I have made a lot in the past and still continue to is like sizing in too heavily into certain trades. Yeah, my liquidity, I can stomach it, but it definitely bites really bad when it doesn't work out. I'm curious from you, Pone, like when you do size into something super big and it hits you that bad, like are you often willing to just take that 40% drop like you mentioned and let it ride out for days? Like at what point do you like choose to actually cut loss on something?
So that's a great question. Because it's happened to me plenty. I have to like kind of ask myself first, like, why did I like size in? You know, did I just FOMO in because like a ton of volume, you know, was coming in and everyone's, you know, like if it's FOMO driven and then it turns against me, like I'll usually just cut it, you know, like, hey, this was stupid. I shouldn't have done this. If it's something that like I feel really good about, and I have like a good reason for entering the trade, and let's say it does have a minus like 40% day, then I'll try and find out like why. Like, hey, like is there information that I don't have, you know, that's responsible for this, or is it just, you know, it's just not the right day for my coin. I usually look to see when those days happen, like what's the response, right? Like what does it get bought back up the next day? Is the tension back on it? Like was there people like waiting to buy lower, and are they buying lower? You know, if that stuff doesn't happen, and other coins like are having that, then I may cut the trade and just take the loss. But there's been coins where like APU, APU, like I'd fired I think like at the time like 100K into the local top, and then it went down. You look at the chart, there was like it was like the day the Israel stuff happened or whatever. It went down almost like 90%, and it took a minute to like bounce and grind back up. But I ended up just I ended up buying more because I was like, okay, cool. Like I like the reaction that this coin's getting to what just happened, and it ended up working out.
He's talking about a coin on ETH mainnet, by the way. It's like honestly, I don't even know what it is. I know it's like a Pepe derivative type thing, but it's at like 250
So it's like
something mil now.
yeah, it's got really good lore, but basically the
Yeah.
character predates Pepe. So like technically like this character was created before Matt Fury created Pepe. But it's got some really good like community's really good. It's like a good like 4chan presence, and the memes are really good. Like they kind of go down the rabbit hole. Like the memes will reference stuff that like if you're not in the know, you just don't really get it. So I like that kind of stuff in a meme coin. So, but yeah,
That's awesome.
that's just an example though of like I'm just eating shit on a coin. I'm like, all right, like going down with the ship versus whatever. I'll just take the money. I'll make it somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm
I
in
will
like I'm in certain trades right now. Sorry, LTR. I'll just say this really
Oh,
quick.
you're good. You're good.
And over. I'm in like in the past like couple episodes I've talked about how big I am on base. I still have belief in like what on-chain summer is going to do, but during this like recent pullback on majors and whatnot, there's been a huge lack of volume on a lot of the more established coins on base, and there's been big pullbacks on them. So I've been watching them very closely, and I liked a lot of things that you said about okay, what happens when they go down? Is it getting bought back up, et cetera, et cetera? The volume's just not really there right now across most of base. I'm just kind of sitting here watching a lot of these coins that I've bought that I still have conviction in, and I'm basically just going to be patient and wait to let them play out. I'm not going to go nuke these charts. It's
Yeah,
interesting because you look at Sol and it's a wildly different place right now.
Well, it's super difficult when you get caught like offsides on like a meta rotation that's like on a whole other chain,
Yep.
because
Yep.
like because I that happened to me a little bit. Like I timed the base rotation pretty well, but there
In
was
or
one
out, or
point
both.
I got out. Like I got out as the meta shifted. I sold most
Yep.
of my stuff, but I was still holding I think like a decent bag of like normie at the time. And I kind of just like asked myself like, all right, well, when volume does come back to this chain, like are people likely to buy this coin, or is there going to be like new shiny coins that people want to buy? Like how long am I looking at sitting in this bag? Is it cost opportunity, like tying capital up in this? So those are just questions that like when I'm caught like in like a whole nother chain rotation, right? I'm just like, fuck, like those are questions that I have to ask myself, and then I make a decision from there.
Yeah, definitely. Could you just like share some of your thoughts around when you start to see those changes happen from like a chain rotation or a meta rotation like that? Like,
Yeah.
what are you looking for, or maybe use that as like an example recently,
So
just like what your thought process looked like.
yeah, I wasn't really using like any tooling, for that. Is more of just like when you're doing this for fucking 15, like 18 hours a day, you get a pretty good like your fingers on the pulse of kind of like what's going on. But I think a lot of it too for me was a lot of the base coins were like cabal coins, and a lot of them were being pushed by like specific groups of like KOLs and stuff, and the coins did great, like the coins ripped, they did, everyone did their job, but like when it's that, I don't know, I feel like when a coin like relies that heavily on like outside parties to support it and move it, like when those guys rotate, like what's going to happen, so my that was kind of what was going through my head when I was looking at like, okay, I'm pretty exposed like to base. I'm definitely pretty exposed to Solana. But the communities are just so different, and so that was kind of how I made my decision to like, look, I made a really good money on these coins on base. Like, let me consolidate into some Ethereum. The market's kind of shaky, and let me just focus specifically like on meme coins over on Solana. So that was my thought process behind making that rotation.
Yeah, I think that's really good. We talked about this, I believe, in the first episode, but you can almost kind of gauge how strong the market is or how hungry the risk appetite is just based on how much power KOLs have, whether you like them or dislike them. I think it's a really good indicator. Like right now, Solana KOLs, have a ton of power, and for a while there was the ETH KOLs and the base KOLs that had a lot of power. So I think you can kind of gauge it based off that. One thing that you said that I think was really powerful was how you realized Apu was strong was based actually on it, how it responded to a nuke. And I think that's counterintuitive to what a lot of people think strength is. Like, I think a lot of people only look for strength in trending environments, but also then forget to look for strength in environments where everything is getting sold off. And true strength is when things are getting sold off, not just in trending environments. So I think that's a really good strategy to hunt for stronger coins or the coins that will bounce the hardest. Is just when everyone's panicking, when everything's red, how do your coins respond, or how do other coins respond to that? So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and you can almost like you get like a feel for it, like okay, cool, like it nuked and bounced, but like what is it like a dead cat? And we see that all the time, like especially after exploits. Like everyone knows by now, everyone's conditioned like you always buy the exploit, candle. But like a lot of times that candle just V bounces and then people take their profits, it gets sold back off, and then everyone sees it as weakness. They say, hey, this no one's really sustaining this, and then generally you go lower. But I liked the way that it grinded back up. It bounced, people got bids filled, and then people just kind of like walked it up. It got sold, it got walked up again, and to me that showed me that there were people who were waiting, to get in this coin, who wanted in this coin. And I haven't looked at it like in 2 days, but before then it was pretty strong. So yeah, that was kind of like telling for me.
Do you remember when Maestro and Unibot both got exploited like within like a week or two of each other? This is like last
Yeah,
October.
yeah, I remember.
Oh my god. I was holding a lot of Joe coin at the time, and the exploit hit that coin. It hit like a lot of other big coins on ETH mainnet as well. It was absolutely insane. But watching coins recover or not through that was absolutely nuts to watch. I think it hit Mog pretty hard. I know it hit
Joe bounced hard. Joe bounced super hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. I was like, okay, well, I'm not in that one, but that's strong.
Yeah.
You were a top holder, right?
I was, yeah.
People were trying to front run the buyback too. That shit was funny. They were trying to figure out which coins would get bought back the hardest for redeems. That was crazy.
But the issue was like Unibot was doing all these like, backdoor redemptions with like the teams and stuff, and they were like, oh, we don't want to pay all that, well, it's just like a lot of like it didn't happen, how everyone thought it was, where they're just blasting. But it was really cool. Like they made everyone whole for the most part, so good on them.
They kind of had to. It was basically like, if you don't make these people whole, your business is going to fail. And like the flywheel that they're getting off of fees is just way too big. They basically had to.
And I believe the original hack was incompetency as far as storing private keys in the first place on a third-party software, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely it was kind of like, rocking a hard place. So you just got to shell up the money at that point.
I think that's actually a good reminder too for people, is like we've gotten so spoiled with how easy it is to trade, with these TG bots and stuff. And I know me, like I'll be carrying like a huge balance on them, and I'll have to be like, whoa, hold up, man, like let's move some of this off. And so I'm constantly like having to move stuff off of whatever bot I'm using, just because I just don't want that risk. Like even though things have been great, like stuff happens, and it's always good to at least like manage, manage your holdings. Don't keep your entire net worth on a Telegram bot, because you could work a year and just have everything. And not even that, you'd have everything on a wallet where you imported a private key to one of these bots, and you're like, oh, well, it's not on a TG bot, and then next what happens, private keys get compromised and you get drained. So um, it's always important to practice like good wallet hygiene. If it's a bulk of your portfolio, get it off, into a different wallet that has not been imported into a Telegram bot, and then when you're ready to trade it, just move it back and sell it or whatever.
Yeah, it's a good reminder too. Like, well, I know a lot of people, myself included, that have this practice of you make good profits on your bot wallets. When you get those profits, pull them out, put them on your ledger. But also another good reminder that it's important to stay liquid and don't oversize yourself into meme coins, because the war conflict can come up and just kind of destroy your bags if you don't do that. This isn't even just talking about stabling, like that's a whole nother thing. But even with the pullback we've seen for like the past week and a half or two, same thing. Like if you're over leveraged into coins, meme coins and whatnot, you're not liquid, you're going to be in a rough spot.
I think one important thing to add to that, to what Pun was saying about backing up your stuff as well, I don't think people have enough hard copies of their seed phrases, like actual physical written down things in a safe. Like I think a lot of people have like cold wallets on their laptop and stuff, but like, if you break your laptop or you spill water on your laptop, like, dude, like your MetaMask wallets, your Rabby wallets, if those aren't backed up somewhere that's maybe not technologically based, like you're going to be fucked, like frankly. So anytime you have any sort of wallet on any technology, I would make a physical copy as well and put that somewhere safe, just like your ledger, just like your hardware wallets.
Yeah, I had a buddy that I think it was a couple months ago, had everything on his computer, and I honestly don't remember exactly what happened, but the hard drive went. I don't know anything about computers. I have one, someone built it for me. Don't make fun of me. But something went out on it. You had to send it. I guess there's like computer doctors or something. It was like a whole stressful thing because he realized I don't have anything written down. Like it was bad. And then also another thing, the bot wallet thing is crazy. Like for me, I mean, I keep maybe around 200 Sol in mine. I see some people with like 2 to 3K Sol in them. That's probably normal for some people. For me, it's not. That for me, I'd be like dying if I had that. So I definitely think that's super important to bring up. But I guess we can kind of shift in, since we already kind of started talking about it, scaling size into trades. How are you doing it? How much? I don't even know how to explain it, but how you're scaling into trades, how you're determining what size to use into them. Pone, would you like to touch on it, kind of how you scale into trades?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of factors, and different trades, different size. I think I'll start with something maybe more people can relate to, like in the current kind of PvP meta or whatever, on Solana. Like a lot of these coins are going to 50, 70 million market cap, 100 million market cap, and they have like fucking like 2,000 Sol in the reserves of the LP. Like there's not a lot of liquidity in these, and so you have to ask yourself, like, if I can't just like cold exit into that liquidity, then I need volume. Like I need volume to come in for me to be able to like sell into people's active buys, to be able to clip out effectively without crushing a chart. But for entering, yeah, so that's a question I have to ask myself if I'm going to enter with size. But generally, in these coins, let's say I see something that's going that I like, maybe it's like, I don't know, 2 mil market cap or something, and 100K liquidity. So in reality, like 50K liquidity. I don't know. I'll kick in like a couple grand, maybe like 5 grand, 6 grand, but it's all relative to like your trading stack. Like if you have a relatively like small bankroll, then you're trading in a pretty risky, pretty not like super competitive, but like we're relatively competitive right now. So like you have to say, like ask, okay, am I cool losing all this money? Am I cool if I fire this in and this goes negative 70% immediately? Like, do I care? Like, am I willing to basically zero out this money for the chance to 10x, 100x, or whatever? So I think I think the sizing's like relative, uh, based on like, I guess a bunch of the factors that I just mentioned, but I always approach it with like, I'm okay having this money zeroed out, That's basically my risk appetite. It's like I'm okay with a total loss on this because that's just like the game we're playing right now. Uh, one there are some things like, and I can touch on this more later, but there are some times where it's just like an obvious, max bet spot where all the stars have aligned. You feel super good about the coin. Everything looks good. Um, and you're early. And on those, like those can be kingmaker trades. So like I'll give an example, like Slurf. Slurf was one of those trades where they had a giant fucking LP, huge LP, and all the pre-sellers got burned. Like, so there was no supply overhang. Like, these guys were going live on Radium, and no one has tokens, but there's like all this liquidity to buy into. So you can size on that, and if you get a 2 or 3x, like that's really good, So that was one of those spots where I was just firing, just clip after clip after clip. And obviously that gets spooky, when you're sizing outside your comfort zone, and you're like, what if I'm wrong? Like what if I'm wrong about this? And it does go down 50%, and it's such a fresh coin, it may not, and it never recover. So it's definitely like scary, but that's where you have your home runs and your kingmaker trades. It's like when you take those risks. So yeah, a little bit of an insight into like a little bit of both of those trading styles.
No, that's completely valid. I want to talk about mine. Y'all may find it extremely weird. I don't understand why I trade like this, but so big thing. I kind of go over my portfolio, like my entire crypto portfolio, every week, and I literally have a set number where I'm only going to max risk 1 to 5%, depending on kind of what I feel. 1% is like complete degen. 5% is like, okay, I saw crap ton of insider wallets go, I'm gonna go in. Or like I just know it was like it was a super elite thing. Like the last time I had a 5% moment for me personally where I was like full send, I wasn't here for Slurf, but that was a great example, kind of like the Slurf thing, was Epic Duck. When I found out it was made by Mando, there I was just like, okay, I love Mando and OSF. I cooked off their wrecked guy NFTs in the past. I know this is probably be something good to go at, and that's when I flew at that with big size. Another big thing I pay attention to is I honestly look at these wallets so much. I can tell when someone has more conviction on something, or if they went like super early at a market cap, I can tell like kind of their conviction on it, right? Let's just say, I don't know, I have pwnlord's wallet, right? I'll see him punt 5 soul at something. I'm like, okay, he's probably gambling. Or I'll see him punt 25, 50 soul at something. I'm like, okay, he has more conviction. Let me look into it. And that is honestly how I trade at the moment. I really am just kind of following other people. If I find something myself, I usually only stay with the whole 1% thing. I don't like to risk too much, which is something I'm, trying to get a little better at, because obviously bear market, my portfolio was a lot less. It was way more important. Now I do have like important things that are coming up that I need to buy, but there's definitely been some moments where I'm like, okay, I'm looking back on it and I'm like, I could have sized in so much better on this. Like I'm up over 1,000%, but my conviction on, and it's good money, I'm not going to complain. Profit is profit. It is what it is. But like I should have sized in better. And definitely kind of watching you like size into like these bigger market cap coins is something that I want to get good at, because I have a lot of just on the side capital that I'm just not really doing anything with, which is not wrong. But I definitely sometimes, I want to take those swings. I want to hit those maybe 20, 30, 40% swings and change my 50 soul into whatever that adds up to. Bad at math, but
Well,
that's how I trade at the moment.
one thing I will say, and again, this is like, I guess the gambler side of it, but like my biggest wealth gaps, my biggest, jumps in net worth or whatever
We're
have
losing you a
all.
little bit.
Oh shit! How about now?
I think you're good now. I think you're good.
Okay,
We're
I was
good.
just
We're
gonna
good.
say
My bad.
like all of my biggest like wealth jumps or my biggest like portfolio jumps have been from a handful of plays. I can sit here all day long and grind, coins and hit base singles and stuff like that. But like all of my biggest, jumps have been through sizing on like super obvious spots or like big plays. In 2021, like a friend and I sniped STG when it went live on Curve, Stargate, and like at the time, like what I fired was like a lot of money for me, and it it crushed. We also did like we sized pretty big on the Merit Circle, LBP, and so and that one, it went crazy. But all of the all of like the really big plays where it's like I've made like a couple mil or whatever in a trade have been from just like sizing really hard, on a play and then it working out versus, me being on chain for fucking 13, 15 hours a day or whatever, and thinking I'm like crushing it. I'm like up, whatever this day and stuff like that. And then, the downswings and the upswings, and it's like you're still in profit, but all of that just gets dwarfed from like one super really good play.
I will say something to add on to that is just there's that saying that's like in crypto, this like 4 or 5 times a year there's free money on the ground, you just pick it up. And I feel like recognizing when like, okay, this is so obvious and you can't mid curve yourself and be like, is it too obvious? Like there are just gonna be plays that are like, and they only happen occasionally, maybe once every quarter, but you just have to hammer them when they do come. Like whether that's like the friend launch, when that nuked all the way to like point 0.9 and then went back up to 3. Like, I mean, you could size 250K into that and, you had a 3x on that. So I think just recognizing when there are those free money plays or those obvious plays and just picking those up and just taking those when they come and really sizing hard, you can outperform probably 99% of crypto Twitter just in 4 or 5 plays a year if you recognize them right.
Yeah, the free money thing is definitely a thing. I have definitely experienced that. NRV, do you want to touch on kind of how you scale in size? Because I really like to bring you up, and I kind of mentioned it. I feel like you were probably a little more like pwnlord than being LTR, so I definitely want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love to snipe stuff, I'm definitely not doing that with like super large size. And I feel like there's a time and a place when, depending on what chain you're looking at, doing a lot of on-chain research on contract deployments and whatnot, if it's hot and like maybe not super crowded or not too many scams going out, like I may fire on a good amount of snipes. But I'm usually really patient for plays that seem obvious to me, or maybe not even obvious, but something I can establish a lot of conviction in, that I feel like maybe I've done more early research on than other people, or maybe I've found information that a small number of people have found. I'll usually size into those pretty heavily. It's not always in one shot. I don't think it's responsible to do that. I think it's a lot better to maybe determine how much you want to put into a trade. Like let's say there's a trade that you really love, and we're talking about actually spot buying into a coin, not talking about like a pre-sale or like an LBP. If you want to put like 5 ETH into something, for example, and you feel like you'll have time to do it, and the chart's not just going to skyrocket on you, I think you're better off DCAing those buys in and spreading them out. Because if you send a big god candle of like 5 ETH into something that's not at a really high market cap yet, even if it's at like 1 mil, like 5 ETH buy is pretty large depending on how the liquidity is. And most of these coins probably don't have a ton of liquidity depending on what it is, and it's probably going to send it really high. Those are the kind of candles that people will just absolutely destroy. You're better off sizing in across multiple buys. There's also a trick that I see some great traders do where they will not only DCA like that, but they'll do it across multiple wallets. So it actually looks healthier to other outside buyers on the chart. So they'll see another new buyer come in. So you could buy across 3 wallets. I do that a lot, sometimes 5. I think it's easy to manage that. It makes it better distribution, makes the chart look healthier, and just gives you a better entry across the board, because you're never going to get a perfect entry if you're buying something late like that, because it could dip on you, and you're never going to get a perfect sale at the top either. So I'll usually wait for something that seems pretty obvious to me and scale in. I do it on Sol sometimes too. Like, I bought a lot of the Epic Duck coin, but I've noticed a lot of these Solana coins will see a massive pump initially, and then they'll get sold off really hard. Like, Epic Duck was a great example of that, where it did go up really high pretty early on, and then it died down, and then it had another huge high after that. Another one that I was in on Sol that did that as well was Cat with Bag. That one went super high and then died and sat for a while, because people are always looking for like the next hot thing, the next shiny item. So that happens a lot. I think it happens even more on Sol with all this pump.fun crap, because distribution's terrible. So you're going to see a pump and then death. And then if you like it, buy the death.
I totally agree. I actually do that a lot. If I see a big insider launch that pumps super hard off the bat, I don't get in. I have a specific deck screener watch list that's just like for those type of coins that die off. And every day I'll check like morning and night, just volume, and then I'll check some of the wallets that bought. And a lot of times you can really just catch like the easiest bottom plays ever, just because people will forget about it, and then suddenly, they'll see it again, and it'll already be 6x from that bottom. So a big piece of alpha is just make some watch lists. Like this Solana coin that's running right now, Chudjack, did exactly that. It had a big launch, it pumped pretty hard, and then it died off to like 100, 200K market cap before now it's at like 13 million. And I had it on my watch list. Unfortunately, I kind of fumbled it, but I did see on my watch list some good volume, and it was holding that 200K area for sure.
So if you guys don't mind, I'd love to pivot this. I want to ask Pone a couple of things. I guess, we're getting close to like the end of the pod. We only have like 6 or 7 minutes or so left. I'd love to hear, like, we talked earlier about like metas changing, chains changing, right, between Base and Solana. What are you looking at right now? And like, I guess, like, what are you looking forward to, and what like indicators are you watching? Because Solana's obviously hot right now. Are you looking for certain things to see like if there will be another change between chains in the future? Are you expecting anything like that? Are you looking at other stuff outside of Solana currently? Like, are you looking at runes or ordinals? Just like, what are your overall thoughts on like where we're at and where you're looking going forward?
So I always have Bitcoin like eco exposure. I don't really keep an eye on it. I have like a bunch of really good ordinals. I got a bunch of runes just from having good ordinals, I guess. So I don't really like touch that too much. I know that like liquidity will come, at least in my opinion, it will come. I don't think it's going to be anything like what people think. They're like, oh my God, like we're going to unlock all these like Bitcoin whales. Like they don't care, but I think liquidity will come to some of the stuff. It won't come to other stuff. But anyway, so I don't really touch that. I kind of just like wait for that to happen. It's just like an NFTs to me. But I am looking at, which I think is kind of like consensus at this point, is Blast is coming up. So a lot of people have been farming there, are going to have some capital maybe to play around with. People are also just probably coming to the same conclusion that I'm coming to right now and going, oh man, like Blast is going to be next, So like if it comes like a self-fulfilling prophecy of, a meta change, but I don't think Solana is going anywhere. One of the really nice things about Solana is that even though like SPL22 exists, which allows for, tax farming and honeypots and all the bullshit we deal with on Ethereum, Radium doesn't support it. So on Radium, it's pretty much like what you see is what you get. We all kind of know the game. The game's getting super watered down right now, where it's like we're just like calling these things community takeovers, but really it's just like, the coin died, a couple hours ago, so now we're gonna run it back. You know, like that term is like lost all meaning. You know, it's not. And then people are just finding dead charts, and they're like, oh, they're community takeovering it. It's like, dude, there is no community. Like we're just pumping it. Like just call it what it is. Um, but I think I also don't try to predict like narratives and rotations and stuff. Like I don't have to be first, man. I don't have to be the one that's like meticulously like scooping up coins and then like, waiting for Hasaka to tweet about him or something. I'm totally fine with like, hey, once the crowd decides what direction they want to go in, hey, I'll tail. It's fine. Because like I'm generally just like a better holder than people because I just don't sell, So and I think it comes from like I'm okay, with losing that money. So I end up, holding through a big downswing or whatever, and then, volume comes back to it or whatever. I mean, not always. Some coins just die. I have plenty of, dead bags and round tripped. But yeah, that's my general thoughts on current meta.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people lack the ability to hold coins. I definitely have it. I think it's kind of like an innate thing that's probably built into your personality, or maybe something that just kind of grows with you over time, either as your portfolio grows or as you see yourself.
It's from fumbling.
Yeah,
it's from fumbling
backs.
10% of Unibot. Okay, like that'll traumatize a man. I've fumbled. I fumbled at least like $15 million worth of Pepe coin, right? Not Pepe, but Pepe coin, the one that decided all of a sudden we're gonna fucking do like decentralized cloud mining and stuff. Like, oh, okay, cool.
Dude.
Like, I totally could have foreseen that coming. So it comes from a lot of fumbles, and it also comes from like watching a lot of my friends who just like they don't trade, man. They buy the coins and they just hold the coins, and like they outperform like any bullshit I can do on chain. Like outside of sniping, right? Sniping is obviously you have a competitive edge. If you win, you get the loot, and then that's the game. So like I wouldn't really count that, but like all of like the intraday like PvP and aggressive rotations and stuff, like dude, these guys outperform all of us just like holding good coins and then like going on vacation and coming back. Like that's I see my friends do that and I'm like, you know what, like I'm gonna try that, and it's worked.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, like literally, dude. Like, I think one of the most craziest trades of kind of before like coins really started was I remember when ordinals like first came out. Like the first, I don't even know how much supply it was. The first like BTC punks where they were literally trading it like a Google sheet, right? Whatever. It was so ancient, but it was like a huge cook, or it was like the initial BTC punk mint. Ordinals were popping. Everything like died. Everyone made fun of it, and the people that had the faith, they did the research. They held the return was insane. So yeah, holding is just a whole different ball game, and it's a skill. It is a skill. It is not an easy thing to do.
I will say though
Down.
there is a level of selective bias though that I think a lot of people forget about. Is like, and I'm saying you should hold more. I totally agree. All of my best trades from holding have come from actually just like forgetting about a bag or sleeping on it or accidentally deleting it from my bot or something and then coming back to it later and be like, oh shit. But I will say that there's a lot of selective bias as far as I think a lot of people forget the things that they have sold that then zeroed or then, rugged or et cetera, et cetera. So don't be too hard on yourself. Obviously, there's always room for improvement with holding, but can always do better for sure.
All right, guys. I got like one other thing we wanted to run by you, Pwn, and then we could wrap up after that. It's been awesome having you on the pod, man. I've learned a lot. I think our listeners have learned a lot as well. One thing, the last thing I think we could just run through really quick is if you want to just cover, and it's probably a lot of us and other people that are listening are using the same stuff, but if you want to just cover really quickly, like what bots you're using for your intraday trading, and if you want to like show any ones in particular, we're happy to do that for you. We'll also tag your Twitter on our post, and if you have like ref links, we could tag those as well. But any specific bots that you prefer to use, if you want to go through that,
Yeah,
and why
I
you use
will.
them.
I will never turn down an opportunity to show my ref links. But no, I use a handful of tools, and as much as it pains me, because like Unibot was just such a piece of shit for so long. It was just like not good technology. But Trojan on Solana is really, really good. So I've been using them for like buying on Solana, and if I want to DC it or something, and like I'm not home to access like Jupiter, then I'll use their DCA feature. But I use Shuriken for like everything EVM just because they have a really nice multi-chain setup. Like you set up your wallets initially and then like I can paste a contract for, base and it'll recognize, okay, this is a base chain contract and it'll pull up all the, the details for me, give me some buy options. So it's really nice like for not just buying but also position management because their position manager will break down like, hey, here's your holdings on Solana, here's your holdings on Base, here's your holdings on Blast, Ethereum. So it's convenient for me not having to like switch through, a million different Telegram bots. So primarily for trading, I'm using Trojan and Shuriken. For Solana botting, like for sniping and stuff, I like Blood. Some people like Peppermint, Mintex. I like Blood. It works for me. So those would be like I guess the top three that I use, and then I have obviously like some different tooling. I actually just picked up uh, a Wand or Oz today, so I haven't really had a chance to play with it, but I know people have been saying really good things about it. So I picked that up today. I use Rue. Shout out to Rue. I've been using them for forever, So I guess those would be the top tools. I don't use it as much anymore because Ethereum's just dead. But before I was using like Frog Cap and I was using camo stuff. I mean, ultimately, more having all the information is great. It's all about what information you have and then how do you break that down and make it actionable. So those are all tools that are helpful and allow me to do that.
Yeah, Trojan has been absolutely elite for me. Probably the best Solana bot, in my opinion. The wallet tracker I use has some quick task links to BonkBot and Banana, so if like super quick stuff, I use that. But actually managing a trade and also just entering like big size on a trade, I'm using Trojan. And then also their pump.fun module, I swear it never fails. And like I've said it before, big degen, so I'm usually scraping these pump.fun, so that's been also really huge for me. And then the Shuriken team is elite. I've known Dak for a little bit since Sensei, and they're doing really, really good work over there. I use mostly Banana and a little bit of Sigma sometimes, but I'm kind of all over the place on EVM, honestly. I'm really just wherever I can farm an airdrop, honestly, but usually most of my Solana trading is on Trojan at the moment.
I will say the important thing about Trojan for people to note is that it has a DCA feature. Most coins on Solana that run are usually really low in liquidity. So if you have a larger position, even if it's like 20K, and you don't want to have that stupid price impact, Trojan has a fantastic sell DCA and buy DCA option. And on Jupiter has it as well, but the problem with Jupiter is that the coin actually has to be whitelisted on Jupiter, which takes a long time. And sometimes doesn't even happen for coins. So I would say that Trojan is essential for Solana just because you can DCA sell and DCA buy, which is of the utmost importance on Solana where price impact is such a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I will say is for the DCA feature, like I use it to exit positions like all the time. It's super nice. I don't use it to enter positions just because I don't want to like show my hand that I'm like trying to get into this coin, even if like one person's tracking that wallet, like I don't want to like give that away because then I get front run, the DCA is all fucked up. When I'm exiting, I don't really care because like, if you're gonna fully exit a coin because I started a DCA, then like, like I can't do anything about that. But I definitely don't want people, front running me and then I'm not even in the coin,
Yeah, no, that's super valid. But I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. It was a great time with all of y'all. was really nice getting to speak to you this week, Pone. And then hope y'all all have a great rest of the week, and we will see y'all next week. Peace.